I think as women, as moms, sometimes I hate to say it this way, but we can be a little bit judgmental, or
Mm,
maybe just not understanding who the other woman is when really we're all kind of the same. Like we all want what's best for our kids. We just go about it in different ways. So it's kind of like the working moms judge the stay-at-home moms. The stay-at-home moms judge the working moms. The private school moms judge the public school moms. The public school moms judge the homeschool moms who judge
yeah.
the like dot, 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 and you walk into a room, maybe you don't, but a lot of women walk into a room and they're like, I don't have anything in common with the women in this room.
Mm,
But really, you do. What you have in common is that your kids are all in the same class. Your kids are all the
mm,
same age. You're all tired. You're all working your best to make your kids healthy meals and make sure they have all the stimulation they need. So there's so much that we have in common, but it's easy to stop short and look for the easy things. Like we're not the same age. We're not the same
mm.
race. We're not the same religion. We're not the same dot, dot, dot. That all might be true, but there's a heck of a lot, like a heck of a lot that you have in common if you just ask the question, if you just dig a teeny tiny bit. You usually don't have to dig that far to find what you have in common,
Yeah.
but you have to be willing to see beyond the superficial judgment that we all do it. We all do it.
Yeah. Hello to all of you wonderful moms out there. This is episode 43 of the Solve for Mom podcast. I'm your host, Anoki Kapasi. This episode is an interview with Cecelia Curtis, host of the Friendship Tour. During our interview, we talked about friendship and connection in adulthood, the challenges of building and maintaining friendships, insights into why friendships become more complex with age. And while we do talk about the nuances of friendship challenges during motherhood, Cecelia points out that connection difficulties are universal, not just limited to moms. Well, not surprisingly, talking to Cecelia, whom I had just met, felt just like talking to a longtime friend. We could have talked a lot more. In fact, we actually did after hitting stop. I think you'll really enjoy this one, and I hope it encourages you to continue to foster meaningful friendships as part of your work-life balance journey. Are you looking for a way to blend success and motherhood without losing sight of who you are? I get it. I've been there too. Hi, I'm Minoki, a PhD researcher, business owner, and homeschooling mom of 2 boys. As your life coach, I help moms like you create a life you love at home and at work. If you're ready to stop feeling overwhelmed, overscheduled, and overlooked, and you want a clear roadmap to a balanced life, a meaningful career, and finally feeling like yourself again while still being the amazing mama that you are, you're in the right place. In this complex equation we call life, it's time to sharpen our pencils and our minds and solve for mom. Hey friend, I know some of my favorite podcasts were discovered because someone like you shared them with me. If you're enjoying the show and finding value in these episodes, would you do me a quick favor? Take a moment to share your favorite episode with a friend who might need to hear this message too. It's super easy. Just tap that share button in your podcast app and send it to someone you think would benefit from it. Your share could be exactly what another mom needs to hear today. Thanks. I'm so excited about today's show because I have invited a special guest who is on one of the most important missions, I think, for humans, let alone moms, friendship and connection. Cecelia Curtis is the host of the Friendship Tour podcast, where she discusses friendship-related topics such as authenticity, thoughtfulness, and forgiveness. Cecelia is a wife, boy mom, like me, a daughter, sister, and friend. Throughout her career, she has worked in the corporate world, government, nonprofit sectors, but it's her experiences as a military spouse with a transient lifestyle that has helped shape her thoughts and feelings about friendship. Along the way, she was reminded how powerful true friendship is and how important these special relationships are, particularly for women. Each week on the Friendship Tour, Cecelia discusses all things related to friendship, such as friendship tips for busy adults, how to make friends as an introvert, chemistry in relationships, and so much more. She does so with the hope that all women can create and maintain relationships that help them feel connected to others, supported in times of need, and bring them genuine joy in life. Welcome, Cecelia.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I don't actually know if you know this, but I have not done a lot of interviews on my show yet. And so you are the second guest on my show.
Yay. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
I have known about your podcast for a while. And when I just love everything about it, the idea of it, and I've been eyeing it. And so I just knew that at some point when I started to have guests on the show, I was going to definitely have you on. So I'm so glad
that
you
makes me
agreed.
feel so special. Thank you.
I already mentioned that I think friendship is a core component of living, a meaningful life. And I just think that sometimes it's missing during motherhood. A lot of our listeners on this show are that ambitious mom type. And so it's going to be really great to have you on and talk about things that you've been learning since, you've really dived deep into this topic since you started your podcast. So I think now we should dive deep here and learn about what's really keeping moms from authentic connections.
Let's do it.
Okay. Well, I like to get to the point. So I'm just going to start right in and ask, why do so many moms feel disconnected despite being more, in quotes, connected than ever?
That's a great question. I will answer by not answering first, kind of. Everyone thinks it's just them. In this case, we think it's just moms, but there's so much research out there right now. There's so much data out there right now that it's not just moms. It's not just women. It is people. People feel, at least in the United States in particular, people feel less connected now than any time in recent history. Dr. Murthy, who was the former U.S. Surgeon General, he talked a lot about the epidemic of loneliness. It's only been a couple years since his health advisory came out. When did we have a health advisory prior to this about loneliness and about people not feeling connected? So it's definitely not just women. It's not just moms. It's not just single people. It's not just married people. It's not just ... The danger is that everyone feels like it's just them. Like we're all experiencing this lack of connection, whether it's because we've moved for better jobs and left our family behind, or because our jobs have issued us a cell phone that's supposed to make it easier to work from home, but really we're just always connected to work, or if it's social media that we're scrolling all the time. There are all these things going on in society. COVID came along 5 years ago and only exponentially increased that feeling of disconnection. There are all these things going on, but the thing that I have found is everyone thinks it's just them. And it's not. It's not. Like, if there's one thing I say, two things in my podcast all the time, it's number one, you're not alone. You're not alone. You're not the only one who feels disconnected. And number two, be a good friend. Like, those are the two things I say over and over and over again, because we're not alone. A lot of people are having this experience and this feeling.
Okay. Do you think it's that different groups of people are ending up feeling lonely and isolated for different reasons, but we all kind of end up in the same place? Or do you think it's the same stuff kind of triggering how we get to this point?
I'm not going to pretend that I'm a mental health expert or that I wrote the Surgeon General's warning, but I would suspect it's the same types of things happening across our culture, and we're all experiencing it differently. So in my case, as a military spouse, we did relocate a lot for my husband's job. That feels unique. And I've been like, I'm a military spouse. It's hard. It's hard. But in reality, people do it all the time. Like, people relocate for jobs all the time. It's built into U.S. culture. It's not as common outside of the United States to pick up your family and move far away and have 3 little kids who don't know their cousins. It's not quite as common, but it happens. And then what ends up happening is you feel like you don't have the support you need. So then you're trying to be all the things to your kids, all the things to your husband. And that's not how life was really meant to be. You were meant to be in fellowship and in connection with other people. And when we don't have that, we're tired, we're burnt out. And as a result, we don't have friends. So it's like, I don't know, this circle of I need friends so I'm not so disconnected, but I'm too tired to make them because I'm disconnected. It's like this vicious cycle that's happening to all of us. It really is.
It does sound like a catch-22. And when you were talking about it, I've been so focused on the mom and helping, women just kind of be seen and feel heard and things like that. I haven't really taken the time to expand and think about the larger population as a whole. And it's funny because when you were talking about this and saying how so many different people in all kinds of walks of life experiencing this, but the stuff you were saying sounded so relevant to, the ambitious mom that I'm constantly talking to on my podcast. And so it sounds like this universal experience that we're all going through. I can see that now when you say that. And I also think that sometimes we are working so much on our identity and who we are that when we're experiencing problems such as loneliness and, missing our friends and things, that we attach the cause as being like who we are and what's special to our particular type of, person or experience that we have. Why is it such a challenge to make friends in the first place? And feel free to talk about what you've learned about people in general, but anything that you have that might be more nuanced towards moms too, I would find interesting, because you are a mom and you went through your own version of this. Maybe you can share your experience of how your friendship changed once you became a mom.
Yeah, I would say I'm on the older side of moms. We had this long season of infertility. So my friends early on, they all had kids before I did. they all they just all had kids, and my husband and I were like, okay, peace out, we're gonna go on vacation. So my friendships really changed because those early friends, like my friends from college and early adulthood, we didn't have that much in common anymore.
Mm.
So they were moving on to, like, at the core, we were still the same people, but they were moving on and doing the birthday parties and getting their kids off to school. And I didn't know what they were talking about. I didn't get it at all. So I could see our friendship changing from that side. Now, as one of the moms who had kids older, I see it happening again because all of
Mhm.
my friends, they're either younger because their kids are the same age as mine, or my friends who are my age, their kids are now in college. And it's like, it's difficult to kind of know where to connect with some of them. But in terms of maybe some of the challenges I see with making friends as moms, I think as women, as moms, sometimes I mean, I hate to say it this way, but we can be a little bit judgmental, or
Mm.
maybe just not understanding who the other woman is when really we're all kind of the same. Like we all want what's best for our kids. We just go about it in different ways. So it's kind of like the working moms judge the stay-at-home moms. The stay-at-home moms judge the working moms. The private school moms judge the public school moms. The public school moms judge the homeschool moms who judge the
Right.
like dot dot dot, and you walk into a room, maybe you don't, but a lot of women walk into a room and they're like, I don't have anything in common with the women in this room.
Mm.
But really, you do. What you have in common is that your kids are all in the same class. Your kids are all the
Mm.
same age. You're all tired. You're all working your best to make your kids healthy meals and make sure they have all the stimulation they need. So there's so much that we have in common, but it's easy to stop short and look for the easy things. Like we're not the same age. We're not the same
Mm.
race. We're not the same religion. We're not the same dot, dot, dot. That all might be true, but there's a heck of a lot, like a heck of a lot that you have in common if you just ask the question, if you just dig a teeny tiny bit. You usually don't have to
Mm.
dig that far to find what you have in common,
Yeah.
but you have to be willing to see beyond the superficial judgment that we all do it. We all do it.
Yeah. That's such a great point. And it's such an easy fix, when you put it that way. Anytime you're approaching someone, especially if, you're on the shyer end and
Hmm.
you're just like, oh, are we going to have anything to connect on? And just going in with the mindset, hey, we already have a connection.
Yeah.
And thinking about all the ways that you do connect or have things in common versus coming in from the mindset, look at all the reasons why we're different. This will never work out. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
really such a simple and useful fix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a mindset change. Like if you go in thinking, I don't have anything in common with them, we're not going to like each other, then you're right. You're not going to have anything in common. You're not going to like each other. You're just not even looking for the positive side of things.
Right. Yeah. I agree. That makes a lot of sense to me. Related to that, then, what tips would you have for, the woman who's really busy or the mom who's trying to juggle it all to now get that beyond superficial level friendship, to have a meaningful friendship that doesn't just revolve around the play dates? I know that you just said that that is a source of commonality, and that makes it easy to approach other women when you
Hmm.
see that. But then I would think that you'd want your friendship to go beyond that. So how do we do that, especially as moms?
Yeah, you have to schedule it and you have to enlist support. And you have to tell the friends which topic, if it's important to you, which topics are off limits.
Mm.
So there are play dates. And for whatever reason, I don't even like the term play date. I feel like it's so like, let's put the kids together and make sure they play. But there are the play dates, which I think are primarily about the children. But then there are times I need to be with my friends.
Yeah.
Maybe they have kids, maybe they don't. Maybe it's going to take a month to get it on the schedule, or maybe we can be spontaneous tomorrow. But if it is important to you to have that time as a woman, not just as a mom, then you need to figure it out. You need to schedule it. Maybe you need to tell your spouse, your husband, that you need support. Maybe tell your mom, I need you to watch the kids for 3 hours so I can go hang out and just be a person.
Mm.
I think you need help. Like you can't do it on your own. It's ideal when your kid's best friend is, your mom friends too. Like that's ideal, but it's not always the case. So I schedule time with my friends. And sometimes I'll even say to people, we can talk about the kids for 5 minutes and then we need to talk about something else. I need to hear about what you're doing at work. I need to hear about the trips that we're going on. Let's talk about something that stimulates our minds in a
Mhm.
way that sometimes the diaper talk doesn't stimulate my mind that way. So let's talk about something in addition to that. I had that conversation with my sister-in-law very early on because she was like, well, what did the baby do today? What did the baby do today? And I'm like, "Ugh, I've been with the baby for 24 straight hours. Can we talk about something other than the baby. So tell people what you need, whether it's time or whether it's a change in topic, so you can just connect on a deeper level. I would also say, I think in terms of those deeper conversations and those deeper connections, be intentional about going a little bit deeper. I think sometimes people will ask questions that are meant to stimulate conversation, but they fall flat. The question might be, what was the last book you read? What was the last movie you saw? Well, you might get the answer, I just saw Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and that's the end of the conversation. Then you have an opportunity to follow up with something deeper. Well, what was your favorite part? Why was it your favorite part? What did it mean to you? And that's just a really silly example. That movie is like a bajillion years old at this point. But the point is, don't stop at the superficial question. Everyone can give you the name of a movie or the name of the book, but dig a little bit deeper. Why did you like that character? How could you relate to that character? What are you working on at work? What has you concerned right now? How can I pray for you if you're a person of faith? These are all questions that are just a little bit deeper than the usual. What are you guys doing this weekend? What book did you read? So dig a little bit deeper if you want to have the deeper conversations and the deeper relationships. Then be willing to share when someone asks you those questions too.
Sure. If I looked back, there are definitely so many lost opportunities where we were having conversations and one of us could have gone deeper. I know that sometimes there's a distraction, a kid tugging at your, pants or something, and you have to go. And in my family, we're always working on like not interrupting and things like that. And so that can disrupt the flow of a conversation between adults for sure. But I really like all of these suggestions that you're making because in a way, they seem like common sense. Like we should know, we're adults, we should know these things, right? But on the other hand, I don't think I ever stopped to really think about, how do I sort of coordinate my conversations? Like in a natural way, but like keep things going. And it almost seems like some of these things, like the mindset shift and how to go deeper in conversations are these skills that we should practice?
I guess, yes. I've never thought about practicing, but if it's something that you're really truly yearning for these deeper relationships and maybe the conversations don't come naturally to you, yeah, why not? We practice all kinds of things we want to get better at. You can practice friendship and sure, why not? Yeah. Ask your husband 3 questions and then go deeper. Ask someone who's already a friend 3 questions and then push yourself to go a little bit deeper. That's a great idea.
Yeah. Especially somebody like your husband where you already feel comfortable going deeper with, right, in conversation and you probably don't even think about it. So whatever you do with the people that you already have those deep connections with, try to replicate a little bit of that maybe when you're with newer friends or people you're trying to become friends with. Yeah, that's interesting. I think you might have answered part of this at least, but I wanted to see if you had anything to add about how moms can, and I say moms, but know that you can always extend that out to women. So, but how can moms prioritize friendships, especially in that busy schedule, the packed schedule that we have? You mentioned getting support and finding ways of getting it on the calendar. Are there any other specifics that you could suggest?
Yeah, I think we all have needs. Some people, their friendship need is not that high, and other people, it really is. So if you have a pretty strong need for friendship, we prioritize everything else in life. We prioritize our work. We prioritize our fitness, our diets, our time with our husband. Friendship is not just about prioritizing the friendship. It's also prioritizing ourselves, like prioritizing our own needs. So if that is a genuine need that you have in your life, connection with other women, then you have to make time for it. And we say make time and everyone's like, where do I get this extra time? It doesn't have to be these big, gigantic, showy displays of friendship. Sometimes it's really just reaching out on a Monday morning and saying, hey, I hope you have a great week. Just to connect with your friend. You might not get a message back until Tuesday afternoon, like, oh, it's been a doozy, but thanks for thinking of me. Sending little silly Instagram videos just so people know that you're thinking about them. Making sure you're planning for when you do have the support. Maybe it's 3 weeks off, but like, hey, I have time on Saturday morning between 9 and 11. Can we meet for coffee? Make the time for yourself and drop the mom guilt. I was talking about this with someone else recently. I remember a time that my mother-in-law was here. She was here and she wanted nothing more than to help with the kids. Like, that's why she came to visit. All she wanted was to help with the kids. And I had this mom guilt. Like, I didn't want to get my hair done. I didn't want to leave the baby for more than an hour. I didn't want to burden her. She's like, girl, go. Go do something. Leave me the baby. Go do something. So sometimes we feel like we don't have the time, but it's us. We're holding ourselves back. Like we have the
Yeah.
mom guilt. We have the priorities all mixed up. We
Hmm.
don't want to put ourselves first. So I'm not saying neglect your family. I'm saying if it's important to you, find a way to make the time. Ask for the help, schedule it if you need to, and then make sure you're doing the small things that you can in between the
Hmm.
meetups with friends.
Yeah, that's really helpful. A lot of your story that you've been describing is something that I share with you, being a later mom. And also, because I waited so long, I just really felt like I had to be there all the time once
Mm,
I became a mom, that I needed to just take advantage of every second and show my appreciation for the fact that I got to be a mom, right? And
right.
so when you were saying, again, so many missed opportunities when my in-laws would come or my parents would come or other people would come, and there was that perfectionism
Mm,
of being sort of high achieving where I wanted it done my way and they wouldn't be able to do it the way that I wanted. So
hmm
I might as well just do it. And there was so much redundancy. Like they were there to help, like you said. It was a little bit of mix and perfectionism, mixed in. One of the things that I've been trying lately is, I talked about it in one of my episodes, is a check-in template with my friends. So I have like a list of all my friends and then a list of all the things I like to do. And I kind of run down and see, well, I want to do this. I'm going to get it on my calendar. Who can I do it with?
mm,
And it kind of helps me make sure that I'm in touch, at least with the people that I could feasibly meet up with in person, that are
hmm
local. I have a lot of friends all over the world. It's stuff I would have wanted to do anyways, and now I get to spend it with friends. I don't know why. Maybe it's the nerdy part of me being, having a spreadsheet or something, that just having sort of a template that I just work my way down. That has been it's a little corny that I have to have such a reminder, but it helps me stay in rotation with my friends.
I think you have to figure out what works for you. I am curious though. I love spreadsheets. I don't apply them to friendship. So I'm kind of curious if you still feel like it's fun and spontaneous, or I don't know. I'm just kind of curious. How does that feel when you're working your way down the spreadsheet?
Yeah, it's not so rigid. As in a lot of the things that I talk about in life planning and things, it's not a rigid system. So the template is really a guide, and it's just
Uh-huh.
kind of a reminder.
Okay.
Kind of like meal planning. Like if you choose not to make that meal, it's fine, right?
Hmm.
But I like to, because I'll forget to do some things that I like to do because it's so easy, as in that busy season of life with having young kids, to just make your day a lot about them. And
Yes.
so even just going to a cafe, I love sipping coffee in a cafe, right? I want to do it with a friend. And so just reminding myself, well, hey, if I made a date to meet my friend, then it's going to happen. It's like kind of works both ways. And
Hmm.
by looking forward to something I like to do, it ensures that I'm going to meet my friend. So it's not
Right.
rigid, like life happens, cancellations will happen on one side or the other, and that's okay too. But it's kind of a guide to be like, hey, I need something fun to look forward to. What should I do? And so that's what I use it for.
I love that. I use spreadsheets more than my husband does. And he thought that was very funny early in our marriage. And it sounds like I've met my match. You use spreadsheets more than I do, which is awesome. So it's fun. It's
Yeah, I'm a scientist, so the work that I do now is epidemiology. So I am
mm,
always neck deep in spreadsheets, looking at rows and rows of data and statistics and stuff. So that's
got it.
sort of my second life, I guess.
Got it. Got it. I love it.
My listeners are ambitious working moms usually, and they're really goal oriented. And so, what are some things that they can do to make part of their personal growth journey, to make friendship a part of their personal growth journey?
That's a good question. I think there are two different types of goals I would consider. And I think you would just have to figure out what your goals are. Like that's the first step when it comes to friendship. Are you trying to make friends or are you trying to have deeper connections? And they're not mutually exclusive, but the approach is a little bit different. So if you are somewhere and you just are like, man, I really wish I had someone I could call right now, but you don't, then it sounds like the issue is you need to make some friends. You need to find some new people to connect with. But if you have five people who you call regularly and you just don't feel like you have the support you need in life, like there's, again, they're there, but they're kind of not there on the level you need them to be, then your goal is probably to have deeper connections. So first you figure out your goal, then you come up with your plan. what is the challenge that you're having with making friends? Is it that you don't have time, that you don't have opportunity, like you're just not meeting the right people? There are all kinds of reasons that you don't have access to the right people, but you have to figure those pieces out. Like, what's the goal? And then what's the actual challenge? So if it's that you're meeting people, but they're not the right people, then you need to go somewhere different. You need to go somewhere that
Mhm.
has people who are more like you. Maybe try volunteering. If you're a person of faith, maybe look at the women in your church and don't just look at them, but serve with them. Do something where you have to interact on a level that's maybe not quite so superficial. Those are just ideas off the top of my head, you know. And then if the question is more about the deeper connections, then let's go back to what we already talked about a little bit. You know, maybe you know the people, but you're just not connecting deeply. So maybe you need to share a little bit more of yourself. You know, maybe ask for help sometimes. I am with you 100% on the perfectionism. I think about the babysitters that I ran off, the in-laws who I didn't allow to help me because I was like, you gave the baby 5 ounces and I
Yeah.
said 4, right? So I do think perfectionism is part of it. Um, and I would just say relax a little bit. You know, I think high achieving women, whether the issue is they need to make new friends or they need to have deeper relationships. I think high achieving people, let's not even say women. I know we're talking about women, but sometimes it's just tough to relax, like to just lean back, stop thinking about the spreadsheet, stop thinking about the deadline, stop thinking about dot, 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 and just relax and see what happens. I think that helps, whether it's a new friendship situation or trying to connect more deeply. Relax, let go of some of the perfectionism, go new places, try new things, reach out to people who maybe are a little bit different on the surface. I bet you'll find they're not that different deep down
Mhm.
inside. I don't know. I just talked a whole lot. I don't know if that's what you're looking for, but those are my biggest tips for high achieving women. Yeah.
That's all really great. It's actually very similar in general, I think, to most post personal growth things that you were talking about, where you kind of start from the end backwards and break it
Mm,
down and figure out the little steps you have to take and sort of troubleshoot what is, preventing you from getting to your goal. Because I think a lot of us, goal-oriented people are used to setting goals and figuring out systematically how to get to there. And so I've never thought about treating a friendship or a relationship as a goal.
hmm
And so that was really interesting to frame it that way. I think that would be very helpful for people who are used to working through, career goals or certain life
Yeah.
goals and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say just another thing, maybe if you've tried to achieve your goals a couple different ways when it comes to friendship and it's not going as planned, then I think you're a researcher. Then you go back and you adjust the variables and you figure out, what do I need to do differently? Am I coming on too strongly? Am I sharing too much too soon? Am I dot, dot, dot? Like there are things we do that just rub people the wrong way and
Mhm.
we don't mean to do them. You know, am I too desperate? Am I too clingy up front? Am I like, there are all these things, but if you're meeting people and it's just not going anywhere, it doesn't mean you beat yourself up, but step back and try to figure out, like, what could I adjust? What could we do
Mhm.
differently without losing who I really am? But
Mhm.
which of the variables need to be adjusted to get closer to that outcome?
Right. Yeah. I think that's all fair. The reason I am using motherhood as that reference point is because there is a huge shift. I think a lot of people that I've talked to, the moms that I help, they didn't have any trouble with friendship
Mm,
beforehand. It was just
yeah.
natural. They didn't have to think about these things to the way that you're articulating them. It's very easy, I think, earlier in life to have these vibrant friendships, but after motherhood, something changes. And you might have pinpointed some of those things in our conversation. But I mean, just at the surface level, just being, busy and all that. But there's something else that also goes on. And it's like we forget all of these skills of how to make friends and where to look and how to maintain them. And so it's just something I hear over and over and over. I don't think that I have necessarily struggled a ton with that because I think that in different phases, my husband's then taken over some of the social planning and stuff. And then we've kind of managed to always keep our friendships going. But I definitely have been in phases where it feels a little more isolating.
hmm
So I think that it's always a good reminder. We can always do better to connect more and find more friends. I'm going to end with a question. So I teach moms how to create impact by showing up authentically at home and at work. So for you, Cecelia, what does it mean to live a meaningful life and to be making a difference?
You know, I've been on a journey to figure that out myself over the last year or so. I mean, really my whole life, but specifically the last year, year and a half. I think the things that bring the most purpose, the most meaning to my life are really the relationships. I love my husband. I love my children, and being with them is the world to me. It really, really is. It's also really important for me to have some goals and accomplish the goals, but not more important than the relationships. I'm learning that about myself. It's also really important in terms of meaning and purpose for me to serve others. That may not be everyone's thing, but that's my thing. So I find purpose, meaning in doing those things, but it's always kind of relationship oriented. That's the truth. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I love that. I think that, all of us have a purpose, and a lot of what I talk about is helping moms reconnect with that. And so I think what you said is great. It's very important too. Is that kind of what led you to, because you said that purpose is kind of one of your connection is one of your underlying purposes. Is that what led you to your podcast?
I don't know that that's true. I mean, yes, it's true, but I started out really just wanting to reconnect with my friends and have a good time doing it. And along the way, I just started realizing how many people are struggling to connect in general. And it became like this passion and this purpose to help other people connect. I don't want to take up too much more time, but you were talking about moms and how difficult it is to connect as moms. And this is the honest to goodness truth. I was at a baby shower on Saturday, so 2 days ago, and there were women talking about how difficult it is to connect when they don't have children. And other women were talking about, no, it's much harder when you do. And I'm like, that's what I'm saying. If you're mom, and I'm not getting passionate with you, but like I was saying to them, that's what I'm saying. Like everyone feels like they're alone, and it's hard because they're moms, or it's hard because they're single, or it's hard because I think what it really is that as we get older, and for a lot of us, we become moms and maybe we lose a little identity and maybe we lose a bit of ourselves. We're focusing so much on the kids. Get that. That's totally valid. But I think most adults, as we get a little bit older, our values change and our time changes. And there are all these things that shift in our lives. We have kids or we don't. And friendship is not just about, do you live across the street from me and want to throw a football at that point? It's about, do your values align with mine? How are you voting in this election? Do you know how to communicate and show up like a mature person? Do you have kids the same age as my kids? We have this whole checklist for can we be friends or not? The checklist is different, but it's a complicated checklist, whether you have kids or you don't, whether you're a mom or a dad or working or not. Sorry, I know that's not what you asked, but I just felt strongly when you were talking about it being hard for moms. It is, but people who aren't moms feel like it's hard for them too, just in a different way.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you feel free to make those clarifications. I think that's really important. There's so much division in the world. And if we're putting that division in trying to connect with one person, and now you clump people into whole groups of people, and you just say, oh, here's my checklist. Yes or no, we can or cannot be friends, or yes or no, we can or cannot get along. Then, I mean, I think it's an important lesson just in our world today. Yeah. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Cecelia, for making the time and being here. And I love everything about your podcast. By the way, I just feel so connected to you. I really want to be friends outside of all of this. So I will be reaching out for sure.
Sounds great.
It was really so special having you here. And I love getting down to sort of what drives women in general and learning more about your values and things like that. So where can my listeners find you?
First of all, thank you for having me. I've loved being here. And your listeners can find me. It's called The Friendship Tour podcast. I'm on all the platforms. And if you want to connect between the episodes, which I really, really love, you can find me on Instagram at The Friendship Tour Podcast. I have a Facebook group, which is bit.ly/The Friendship Tour. Yeah, you can send me an email, ccurtis at The Friendship Tour Podcast. Just, reach out. I'd love to hear from people who are listening to the podcast. I love to hear what your questions are about friendship too. So reach out.
Perfect. I will have all of that information in the show notes too. Okay, ladies, there you have it. Cecelia Curtis of The Friendship Tour. I hope today's episode will help you create time and freedom to pursue something you love to do. If you enjoy this show, please subscribe and tell other ambitious mamas about it. Who knows? You might even make a new friend by sharing a tip. It's all free. By the way, it would be amazing to hear what you think about the show when you leave a review. After all, my passion is to make this a great experience for you. Thank you for making my show a part of your day. I'll see you next week for another episode of the Solve for Mom podcast with Anoki Kapasi.